Jonathan Kiley here. Today I'm going to show you something cool with the new Fly Skinz thin fins. They come in 4 different sizes. You have the small, which is roughly about 2 inches in length. You have the medium, which is approximately 3 inches. And then you have the large, which is probably a 5-inch, and then you have the almost 6-inch XL size. In the XL size you get 8 per pack, the large you get 9 per pack, and then both of the smaller sizes, small and medium, you get 12 per pack, so it's pretty good value. Why did I come up with this? Well, it is a lightweight nylon material that's very durable, has a lot of action in water, doesn't absorb a lot of water, and it's easily integrated with any baitfish pattern, whether it's your crease flies or just your standard deceiver pattern. So it's pretty cool. So let's get started. With the fly, I'm going to start with it's a Gammarus actually hook from Arex Hooks. I really like these. It's got a wide gape, and I do a lot of warm water fishing, so that wide gape is pretty essential when you're fishing for bass and bowfin and other large warm water species. The number 2 works just fine. Here it is right here. I'm also going to be using some Deer Creek gator eyes. I love these eyes. I love their whole range of eyes. I think they're really cool. They add a lot of life to the fly. I'm going to use these green ones. I've got some 6/0 Vivus thread. I'm going to use a light olive for this particular one. And then I've mixed up some of my own dubbing. These are probably my 2 favorite colors to make like a shad type pattern, especially when I'm fishing like a big shad movement within lakes. What it is essentially is pseudo marabou and ice wing fiber, and then I use the hairline mixer to make it. So you can mix and match colors. Here's a white with ice wing fiber for a little flash, and then I made like a shad kind of blue, and then here's another chartreuse olive kind of color I mixed up. So I'm going to use those. I'm also going to use some rabbit zonker strip to hold in the thin fin. Okay, so I'm going to zoom in here in a second and then show you how to do this. Alright, so here we go. We got the size 2 Gammarus hook, and then I went ahead and selected the medium fin here. As you can see, it's pretty long and thin, hence the name thin fins. One thing you can do is you can trim it to whatever length you want, or just leave it as long as you want. I like using the mediums for this particular size, as well as the smalls. It really depends on the size bait fish you're going for. So this one's pretty good as far as the length. I can tie it all the way up to the front. So with that, I'm going to just go ahead and start my thread base here. I'm going to cover the whole hook here, a couple back and forth there. I'm going to take my thin fin. Now you can color these before or after. Sometimes I like to color them before, especially if I'm going to color some of the fibers that are on it. And then that way they match. Okay, there. Got that down. Now all I got to do is I'm going to take some rabbit zonker. I like this color. It's like a grayish white. It's actually called chinchilla. Hairline carries this one. When I'm lining this up, one thing I want to do is I want to make sure that the fibers basically don't go beyond the tail. So when I cut the strip, that's what I make sure to do. And also I want to keep some of the leather, so when I bond it with the tail, it helps hold it back out of the way. And that way you can pretty much eliminate any fouling of this fly. Okay, so I want about ½ an inch of the leather on the tail, and I only want to go about halfway up on the hook here, so I'm going to cut that off. It's going to be about 1 inch long, and this has a lot of fur, so it actually will go a long way. Alright, so I'm going to tie this in on both sides, about halfway, like I said, on the shank of the hook. Just grab the end there, flip it over, do the same thing to the other side. You can use the thinner Zonker strips as well, but I like the thick. It has a lot of body to the fly. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use this. It's actually a foam glue. It's a flexible glue. I've been using this for a while to help hold these tails back. It bonds well with it. Keeps it flexible. I also use super glue. It's up to you how stiff you want this part. So it's going to come out. It's going to want to be a little stringy if it catches on anything. So don't worry about it. Put a little bit on both sides. I usually put it on the leather of the rabbit zonker. And then I'll go ahead and line the tail up. And I'm going to sandwich it nice and easy and go straight back. If you get a little extra of the glue, excess, no big deal. It actually helps hold it back and it gives it kind of a wet look. As you can see there, you got a little extra, no big deal. And it just rolls off your finger. So what that's going to help do, obviously, is keep the fly tail back out of the way when you're casting. Okay. So then I have my dubbing that I made out of the pseudo marabou and the ice wing fiber. I cut it a couple inches long. That way I've got a long type of dubbing. And I'm going to make this one like a shad. So I'm going to go ahead, just elongate the fibers by pulling it out of itself essentially. Okay. And I'm going to stack this in, so very similar to other materials that you would tie in. I'm going to tie it halfway between. I'm going to flip this up and tie it in the belly first, the halfway point, and I'm simply going to fold it over to the other side. So I'm going to cover 180 degrees there with the belly. Tie it in, flip it over, and then I'm going to take this bluish turquoise kind of color for the top, about the same amount. You don't want to get carried away, use too much. You add too much body to a fly and sometimes you don't get the right action, so you don't want too much. The fatter the head, typically the more wiggle you get from a fly. The thinner the head, the more material you have on it. Also, let's say you have a lot of material on the top, what that can do is cause the fly to flip upside down. That's another reason I like these hooks too, is they have such a wide gape in them that it actually helps if you have a wide bodied fly to keep it from rotating while you're stripping it in. So I should just need a little bit more here for the front, elongating those fibers. You can add a little red underneath too, or a little red feather underneath for a belly, and then when you fold this set over, what it'll do, it'll be kind of translucent in the water, which is cool because then it gives it more of a realistic look. Okay, fold that over, tie that in. Okay. These shad patterns are great for all types of fish. I've caught crappie, largemouth, and I've even caught some bluegill, big bluegill on these. Bowfin love the chartreuse and white color for some reason. And they like it in the winter time where you're barely moving the thing too. They just kind of grab it and drag it away. Okay, and there's that. Alright, so one step now that I like doing is I like to brush it out. That's going to help kind of grab all the fibers and get the unnecessary ones out of the way. So I'm going to take my brush here, just kind of grab any stray fibers that I didn't get when I elongated it out. Okay. So I'm going to build this thread up and get any excess fibers out of the way. And this is where I'm going to glue my eyes and epoxy the head. This is where also, if you're not happy with how fat it is, if the fly is just too thick, then you can basically trim it down. This one's about maybe just a little thicker than I would normally like. So what I can do, it's a good time to trim it. Got my Loon razor scissors here. Almost said laser. Just gonna go around, give it a good trim. Okay. Now I'm going to super glue my eyes in. Just use regular super glue here. A little drop for both sides. I like to press and hold them for about 10 seconds just to make sure I get that really good stick to it. I know some guys don't put epoxy or resin over theirs. I don't like doing that. I like to make sure they're not going to go anywhere and they're going to last a long time. They do get bumped off if you don't glue them well. Also, it doesn't matter sometimes if you get a little super glue on them. As soon as you put any resin or whatever over the top, they'll basically clear up if you mess them up. So don't just throw your eyes away. You can still save them. Okay. So now I got to fill these gaps. I'm going to fill those with some of the UV flow from Loon. I'm just going to get inside the eyes there, hit it up, flip it over. Sometimes I'll even I'll go ahead and hit up some regular slow cure epoxy over top just to keep it a little extra durable. I'll go back in. What I like to do is I'll hit up the eyes, put a little thin coat over the eyes, and then get some just on the edges in the material. That'll help really bond that to the body. Okay, almost there. Go ahead and add one final coat to the whole thing. Alright, and another little trick, check this out. So sometimes you get those little stray hairs. You take a lighter and you just barely touch it. And what that'll do is it'll just clean up that head. So you have a nice smooth body. And then I can go back in and I can go ahead and put my little shad dot in there. So I'm going to grab my permanent marker. Alright, so here I've got my fly. I'm going to color it. So I'm going to use Copic markers here. There's the brush tip point and then there's the chisel tip. I mostly use the brush tip point. I'm going to add my dot for my shad. I'm just gonna do a couple parts where you just kind of poke the material, and that's gonna help get it nice and deep all the way through, just like that. Flip it over, and then sometimes you can even see the other side there. Do the same thing. Just keep giving it a couple stabs or pokes, whatever, and that way it gets nice and deep inside all the fibers. Okay, and then when I trimmed the blue back there, I lost a little bit of color, but that's no big deal because now I can go back in and I can kind of match that color with this blue marker. And then I'm going to go right down the tail to where the fin starts coming out. I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. It'll bleed through a little bit, but not all the way, so it doesn't hurt to go back down on both sides. And one thing about these Copic markers is it'll actually hold the color really well on the tail and all the fibers, and I've had it stick pretty well on natural fibers. So what I probably should have done first too is take this yellow. I'm going to do a little line right down the center between those two colors. I probably should have done that first before I put the black in, but you just got to be careful here. I'm going to add that yellow line down the center. See? It looks pretty good. It almost looks like, I think it's called a sexy shad in the traditional tackle world. A little bit of yellow there. Just barely touching it. Of course, you want to go with the fibers. And I'm going to do the tail now. Now the tails on shad are sometimes like a tan color with some black tips and whatnot. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and color the entire tail. And this is it's a great fall pattern. I'm going to try these on some stripers this year. I'm going to come back with my black marker. I'm just going to barely hit the edges here. That's cool about this brush tip on the Copics here. There it is. So there you have it. Got a nice bait fish pattern. Real simple, real easy, not much to it. You got a tail that's going to have a lot of movement, super durable tail, and this pattern catches a lot of fish, so make sure you have several of these for your box. Doesn't matter what time of the year it is, fish eat other fish. So there you go. Hope you enjoyed it. I'm going to be doing a few more videos, some new materials, and I hope you guys enjoy. Thank you.